friend Scott Sweetman with me here. So the idea with this show is that we are going to have a conversation that we think you will leave and you'll say, I feel a little bit more hopeful than I did before. I feel a little bit more optimistic. I feel more connected to others, especially that Scott Sweetman. He's such a jovial guy. So that's kind of the purpose of the show. And we've put a lot of thought into the agenda for today. Right, Scott?
We have.
We're not going to share that with you quite yet because it's still ruminating. We're not quite ready to release it. But what I can tell you is this. Ooh, I had me a fantastic day. Do you want to hear about it, Scott?
More than anything right now.
All right. I went down to the range this morning and helped my young friend Thomas go to figure out how to run his shotgun. He's going to go do some hunting, and he wanted to figure out how to run his shotgun. And he had a question about chokes that I couldn't answer. So I called my friend Ted at Marksman, and he knew the answer. And I had him on speakerphone, so Thomas heard, so he knows the answer. So he's going to go and have a safe, beautiful hunting experience, and that's amazing. And then while he was there, I said, hey, Thomas, you ever shot a handgun before? He said, nope. I said, well, I happen to have a 9mm pistol that you could try. So I had him give him his first handgun shooting experience, and he used my 9mm, and he was a little bit scattered, but then he got it tighter and tighter and tighter. And so he was bringing it together. It was coming. So, yeah. So anyways.
And we should say on that note that anyone who wants to try and safely shoot a firearm of any kind that's legal in Canada, they can contact you or me or the range operator at Lethbridge Fish and Game Association, and we'll set that up for you.
Exactly. The shooting sports, you might not be familiar with this, but here's the reality of the shooting sports. The safest shooting sport in the world, the most inclusive. You can do it if you're able-bodied, if you're like, you run marathons, or if you're riding a wheelchair, you can do it. It is a lifelong sport. You can do it when you're 6 years old, and you can do it when you're 160. I don't think we have any 160-year-old members, but maybe we're going to in the future. And so it's a very, what would you say, a cooperative sport. Right? If I went and Scott was the best marksman at X sport, and I came to Scott and say, Scott, I want to learn how to beat you at this sport. Scott would spend all kinds of time with me to help teach me how I could do better so I could beat him. So it is a very...
And I would loan you my gun to do it.
Yes, exactly. So it is a different sport and recreation type experience. It is a different competition type experience. It is in a good way. We think, and many of us are very much on the same page, that firearms are a tool to teach responsibility. And so using them, basically you take our normal lives that we have decisions, those decisions result in consequences, and we're relating that to this 1 second exchange where you press the trigger and the bullet goes there. That's the path, you caused it. So let's relate that to life. If you're a little bit off over there, it's a little bit because you're off here. The further on that goes in space and time, the more pronounced that concern becomes, or that challenge becomes in your life. Would that be a fair way to say that, Scott?
It is. And I used to curl. I grew up in Bentley, Alberta. For those of you that don't know Bentley, it's a thriving metropolis of about 650 people in town. Most of us grew up in the countryside around it. Hockey and curling were the two sports. I wasn't great at hockey. I scored on my own team the first time I played, to the great disappointment of my dad, who was some kind of hockey star. So I took up curling, and our curling instructor, whenever you would miss, he would say you weren't true on that shot. And, you know, it's like with target shooting. If you're true, you're going to hit the target and everything's going to go okay. It's when you start getting, jealous of, oh, so-and-so shoots better than I do, I want to shoot as well as they do. Or when you start letting stress, or when you let your mind wander or not focused. But as long as you stay true to what you're doing at that time and focus on what you're doing, the bullet will pretty much find its way right to the center of the target. And, you know, I like that terminology of being true. And I think that life is like that too. You know, if you're true to your goals or your dreams or your hopes, you'll succeed. And that's sort of where I want to go tonight. As I told you, I've been doing some research on the mechanism of hope. You know,
Yes.
we've talked esoterically, and what does hope mean in religion and psychology, and what does it mean to you and I and other people. But my research since that time has been about, okay, what can we do, and is there any proof that hope can actually do something? Okay.
Okay.
And so that's something. I'm not finished, but we sort of jumped the gun tonight a little bit, so I'd like to work that in.
Okay.
But just going back to shooting,
Yes.
Safe Society, which you and I started up,
Yes.
the shooting program of that. There was people before me involved in the creation of the organization.
Oh yeah, but you created the program. We had this, the society was in place. You created the program that really made it flourish. So well done, Scott Sweetman.
Thanks. Well, lots of other people, and like this time, my health didn't even allow me to go down, and other people like Michelle Sylvestre and Fleur and the girls, So we have now.
I'm very proud of that, of Team Sweet and the work they do. It's amazing work. So yeah.
But we had mentors like Kale. You know Kale very well. Kale came down and helped mentored, and the program's become so self-sufficient that now we have people that came through as little ones that are taking on that responsibility as young adults, and they're passing on their knowledge and their passion and
Nice.
their skills. But so I think, don't quote me, but I think we had about 12 people come through. We've changed it a little bit, so we do an introduction to firearms where we teach. They do shotgun one night, they do rifle another night, and then the next 3 nights are pistol. Because the program was really designed with pistol, but we've had a lot of people say, hey, I've never tried rifle. Could we try that? I've never tried a shotgun. Can we try that? And as you know, the LFGA community has a lot of opportunities in many, many different sports.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to bring that in. But at the end of it, and we just finished last week, all the kids want to take their black badge course.
Cool.
And they want to carry on. And so, to people who don't know, this is kids that, now there's some that are too small and they're going to have to take it next year, but their desire and their commitment was there. So, we're talking about youth, most of which had never fired a firearm before, who haven't been involved in organized sports before, and, would have spent that time probably indoors or watching TV or playing games.
Which, Scott, let me just interject, which speaks back to the inclusiveness of it, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be, maybe you have to have a certain size or stature to play basketball, but you sure don't need a size or stature to be involved in the shooting sports, right? Or football or whatever sport it is, right? However you are is exactly how you need to be to enjoy the shooting sports right now. Well,
and proof that times change, and people talk about, things always stay the same. When you look back at, and I don't want anyone to get offended, but if you take a look at sort of the mentors that we had, 98% of them were older, white, overweight guys. Great guys, but one very clear demographic, right? And now you look at the participants in the program, and we had more girls than boys. We had people of different ethnic backgrounds, different skin colors, different languages, different religions. And as they're coming up, they're doing the teaching.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
It's and things do change if you get out there, and this is where hope, instead of forcing that change, we hoped that if we opened it up and gave people the opportunity, that change would occur, and it has.
Yeah. I got to tell you a story about like gender bias in the shooting sports.
Yeah.
There was this lady from Calgary that I met that had some items that she thought that we might like, right? Beautiful. She wanted these things to live on, right, in somebody's memory and that kind of thing. Great, right? So then she was talking about where she had been to a Boy Scout jamboree, and because she's a very active marksman, then she was going to be one of the range officers, which was very unusual. That was, it was usually the the army guy, like the commandant, the major, I think it was the major who is the range officer on behalf of the army. And she got somehow in a range officer type role. And there was also an RCMP officer. And so the RCMP officer, so those are the three of them, the army, the major, the RCMP officer, and this marksman lady, right? And so the RCMP says, hey, we've got time to check out this course of fire. Let's have us a little friendly competition, right? Like, sure. And so they go, and the woman kicks their ass, right? Beats them both, right? And the RCMP says, congratulations, man, that's awesome. And the major, he just turns on his heel and stomps away, right? He's pissed, right? But the fact is, women can do the sport as good as any man. Like that, there's no particular strength, or a matter of fact, their fine motor skills are often to their advantage in terms of the, things like changing magazines or those kind of things where if you
well, and we know that, the man box that you talk about is we're socialized not to take instruction, right?
Yes.
Like if we have to take instruction, we're somehow less than the person or the map or whatever that are giving us those instructions.
Right on.
And so, as instructors, you and I know that usually women will jump ahead of men quite quickly because they'll actually listen and they'll take into account what they're being told, and they'll work it into what they're doing. And
that's a great insight, Scott Sweetman. Nicely done. Nicely done. I don't think I've ever heard that verbalized. But I think I agree with you. It's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And yeah. I think that.
It clicks with the men won't ask for help, right? Same as men won't ask for directions often.
Yeah,
well.
it does. We're socialized that way.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one way that millennials, and we've seen that, people talk about how millennials are always asking for help and that they don't try things on their own. And in one way, it's freed up younger men from that sort of macho, I don't need help, I don't need direction, I don't need you to tell me, I can figure it out. So it's kind of a swing in the pendulum, but I do find in instructing millennials that the males are more open to instruction and to listening and guidance than probably we were when we were so deep in that man box culture, right?
Yeah,
so.
No, exactly. And you don't want to look weak or anything. You don't want to look stupid. So you'll just fake it and try and pretend. And then you, whatever, take a 12 gauge. I can, boom. Oh, shit. And my shoulder's sore for a week, but, I didn't have to listen to nobody. I can see that. I've done that. I've lived that.
I always love watching a range officer. And I can say that when I've seen it, it's always been a male have an accidental discharge and then try and pass it off as something else. Oh yeah, I meant to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that I think the shooting sports are a great microcosm of the possibilities that are available out there.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, they also show the irrationality of some of the political swing we have seen, the cancel culture, and where we've seen those of us that are involved in shooting, even hunting, which is far more dangerous than shooting on a range because there's so many other variables, is still rated up there, I think, in the top 2 safe sports that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And people said, oh, prove it. Well, if you look at the insurance for a shooting range compared to the insurance for a hockey rink or a swimming pool or any other sport facility, we pay pennies on the dollar. And that's a fact. And why is that? Because people just don't get hurt or killed on a shooting range.
Yep. So the insurers say, hey, we're going to make tons of money on these guys. We don't have to, this is enough profit because we're never going to pay a claim out here.
Not that it never, ever happens. I mean, you can get hurt in your own home sitting in your easy chair. So things certainly can go wrong, but statistically, incredibly safe. And it adds so many positive things to what's going on. So, but I just wanted to add that in there. Like I said, if people are interested, they can contact you directly, me directly. They can contact Lethbridge Fish and Game. They can contact Safe Society. They can contact Chinook Country Shooters. These are all local organizations. If you're into black powder, there's a black powder club. Lots of opportunities in our area to get involved in safe shooting. And that's completely different from what you see on the news. It has nothing to do with, gangs and violence and, you know, anything of that nature. You and I have been shooting for years, and we've never ever shot at anyone ever for
We
any reason. So,
collectively, the two of us have many firearms. And you might say, oh, that's too many. Why do you need so many? Because there's different ones for different sports, different applications, different things you're trying to do. Why do you have whatever? How many golf clubs are? There's different tools for different applications, but they are all firearms. We don't own any weapons, not zero, not no weapons, because a weapon is used to hurt or kill somebody. Ours are for making holes in piece of paper and knocking pieces of steel down. It's a tool to do a job. So different sport, safest sport, inclusive sport, amazing sport. Women do just as good as men, better because they listen to instruction, easier, where men are in the man box thinking, oh, I don't need to listen to this guy. I'm tough. I know what I'm doing. So,
well, and, you know, sort of a crossover to the other show that I'm very happily a guest on sometimes, 1,000 Ways to Kiss the Earth, 1,000 Ways to, you know, help the little guys. It's a sport that a single mom can get into with their child. We've seen so many moms come down, and, you know, dad's either busy or not in the picture or overseas or something, and, you know, they have children that they want to expose to these things. I know my mom took us fishing and shooting and tried to be both mom and dad after my parents were divorced. And shooting sports in our area is a fantastic opportunity. Youth don't pay. You don't need a license. They don't need to pay for ammunition. You don't need to buy a gun. You don't take anything home other than some great targets and a lot of fantastic memories. So, you know, if you're a single parent or parents who want to expose your children to something that you yourself may not be able to do or comfortable to do, bring them on down. We'll take care of them and make sure they get a good experience and good memories.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing asset we have in this community. Incredible.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
World class. So are you ready for the hope, or do you want to hear more about my day?
I want to hear more about your day. I hadn't forgotten.
All right. Well, I was chatting with this guy, Canadian Border Services guy, who are using Range 7 right now. I never even asked his name, but we had a beautiful chat. This was his last day. He had resigned from CBSA. He's going to look at other opportunities, and good for him. Like, you know, a lot of the work he was doing was transporting criminals, and, you know, he didn't, you know, it's kind of not a fun job to be doing that. Right. So he was changing up on his life. And so we had a nice chat. We were letting people in. I was waiting for Thomas to show up. We had a nice chat. And then I was leaving. I walked over onto the Range 7, and they're in the middle of instruction. They're, excuse me, sir, what? And I said, yeah, just one sec. And so I looked at him and said, hey, I just wanted to, you know, wish you well in your change in your life and you're changing your career. You know, I hope it's going to be fantastic for you. And then just said, sorry for the interruption, and booted out of there. Right. But I think it probably made him smile. Well, I saw him smile. I know it made him smile. So.
Good. Well, hope, right?
Yes.
You know, you have to have hope that when things aren't the way you want them to be, you have to change them. And like we talked about before, hope is a great tool to making that change and making that adjustment. So, and
hey, sometimes it's just little changes, right? Small changes over time make huge differences, right? And so, you know, what's the next little tweak you can make that would make tomorrow 1% better than it was today? Right, Scott? Don't you think that's a good way to?
I think it is. And that sort of brings us into what I wanted to talk about. And
perfect.
You know, unfortunately, we like to see more people calling in or leaving us comments. But as you know, people sort of run into us in our daily lives and say, hey, you know, last night on the show or last week on the show, you said this. Tell me a little bit more about that. Right. And so one of the things that I was asked about was, what's the difference? You know, when I was talking about hope, was I really not talking about optimism? You know, is optimism a synonym for hope? And I don't think it is. I think that optimism and hope are two different things. A pessimistic person can still have hope, right? So okay. I think that hope for me is very, very specific, and it's usually focused, right? So optimism generally isn't focused. Optimism is generally sort of pervasive. It's something that, you know, permeates the things you do. It's like cologne, where you go, the scent of optimism or pessimism follow you around, right?
Oh, that was very nicely done, Scott. I got it now. Oh, what a nice way to express that. My goodness.
I got an A in English, Al.
That I can tell. Very talented. I love that. I want to write some songs. And so maybe you and I should write songs. I kind of have like little bits of lyrics, and then we'll fill it in, and then we'll make up songs, or maybe like a spoken word thing instead of a song.
Well, I don't sing, you sing, but as you know, you're the world's best editor. Like, you can edit like no one I've ever. If I make a mistake, Al can catch it. One-eyed, probably, no sleep for a week. Al can still give me one heck of a job editing what I do. So
not really, Scott. I read it out loud. That's the editing trick. Read it out loud. Oh yeah. Okay. So that does it every time.
Spoken then. Okay, I'm just trying to put up my notes here in a sneaky way so you can't all see that I'm looking at my notes as I go.
Oh, man, you pulled it off. Nobody noticed, Scott.
Because I was, I'm fumbling. Because I'd actually planned to do this next week, but, it sort of worked out that we could do it this week.
All right.
So what I've been doing is looking at academic studies. I don't think everything is in the realm of academics, but they're required to put down their sources, right? So
right.
When I read something, if I don't agree with them, I really like to see a source that I can go back to and get the information right from the horse's mouth, right?
Sure.
So the dictionary places hope closer to wish than not
wish. Okay.
Yeah, to wish, and it really is a desire, or a really strong anticipation for something specific to happen.
Okay. Hope's related to a specific thing and is more of a wish in nature. Okay.
Right. So optimism is more broad and, a good feeling where you can feel like crap, but still hope, right? Still have hope.
Tomorrow is another day.
Exactly. And so with that hope, we have a mechanism to affect the thing that we're talking about. And so hope is a focused energy. And, anytime you take energy, even a small amount of energy, and you focus it, it becomes a force multiplier, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, as a kid, most of us have started a little fire, hopefully not in the coolie system, with some magnifying lenses. All we're doing is focusing that same amount of energy. There's no more energy. It's just focused, right?
Yeah, well said.
So I think that optimism and hope share the commonality that the desire is something better, but hope actually has a mechanism, and that's by focusing whatever positive energy is there, even if it's a minute amount. We've used a power multiplier, which
hope is a power multiplier.
Yeah, I believe it is. Okay. And in that, it's really vital, because it gives us the ability in really bad circumstances for us to not only focus that energy, but to feed that energy. So we can look for things specifically to add to that energy. And because it's not this big, broad, open feeling, it's pretty easy for us to say, that's going to fuel my hope, or that's going to poison my hope, right? If you think of it like you're out in the wilderness, you're starting a little fire, you've used your lenses to concentrate the light. Now you have to pick up, dry or sort of mushy, rotted greenery. You throw that on your little fire, it's going to die, right?
Right.
You throw dry, clean kindling on there, your fire's going to get bigger.
Okay.
So hope allows us to start making choices about what will increase the power or move us closer to getting a result.
Interesting. Okay.
You with me here, buddy?
Mm-hmm.
So now that we have a criteria, and you can apply this, I'm using fires, but you can apply this to anything. It's my hope to get a new job. Well, once you focus that energy and you're focused on getting a new job, you can start saying, well, going out for a beer tonight with my buddies is not really going to add more power to my hope fire, right? About getting a new job.
Yeah,
but, staying at home and researching the company and finding out what their goals are, finding out what they've done in the market over the last 5 years.
Smart you are, Scott Sweetman.
Well, that's going to add some of that dry kindling to our fire, and that's going to help build more force for us to make that hope a reality.
Nice. How did you like the Yoda, by the way?
I did. It was right on.
Okay, cool.
Right on.
Okay. Carry on. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do Yoda. It always sounds like I'm some kind of weird pervert hanging around a schoolyard. So I avoid trying to do the yoga. So this one I'm going to read here. This is a report by the American Psychology Association.
Okay.
And this is a study they did. I have references. We can probably add them on here. But children who grew up in poverty but had success later in life all had one thing in common: hope. Okay. Dr. Valerie Mahomes, who worked on the research, said hope involves planning and motivation and determination to get what one hopes for.
Okay.
And so, we talked about before how you have to turn just the feeling of hope into some sort of action,
right,
to realize hope. And so I think it starts really small. Like let's say we're that pessimist, we're that really dark, we're in a bad spot, everything's terrible, but we can eke out just this tiny little amount of hope, right?
Yeah.
And once we've done that, any amount of focus that we can give to that hope is a force multiplier that will help that force grow. Making a little decision, once we've got that, then we can easily or more easily filter out things that won't add to our power to realize that hope, or things that will add to the power, right? Because we have a criteria now. Go back to my fire example.
Right. I understand.
So we can choose those things that will add to the fire.
That's it. This is well said, Scott Sweetman. Scott, you're impressive. You're more nuanced than I've given you credit for, my friend. Good job. Okay, carry on. What else you got to teach?
So we then can start looking at the next step forward to realize that. So we can start planning. We can actually move it from the abstract at this point, because as you know, once you have energy, to make something from that energy, you just really need a place for it to go.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So we can start developing the pathways. And Valerie, when she looked at this, she said planning, motivation, and determination. And so by that little spark of energy, by focusing that, we can start looking at planning. Like what can I do here? Well, I usually go out with my friends, for chicken wing and beer on Tuesday nights. What if I said, at the very least, I'm going to take that same 2 hours, I'm going to save that money up so that I can, buy a new suit to interview in, or, get a haircut so I look good on interview day. And I'm going to spend the time researching for that new job I want. So suddenly that planning has brought a whole bunch more force multipliers to the party, right?
Wow.
Now
well
we're
said,
saving money
Scott.
for a new suit. Now we're starting to do some research and learn more about it.
Yeah. Yes.
And once we see that happening, once we see our little piggy bank getting quarters in it that we didn't spend on hot wings and beer, once we start to really understand more about the company and the complexities, and we can talk about it with more authority, what we find is that we get more motivation. Right?
Because we've moved things along. We're another step closer, which helps clarify. Oh, yeah, look, we're going in the right direction here, right? That
Nothing motivates better than success, right?
Yeah.
And boxers, anyone involved in professional sports or goal attainment, find a little win and build on it, right? The whole process is really about multiplying the positive force of hope and turning that into a reality.
Scott, you help me express this, because I think this is how it works, and I want your opinion on this. I think we are right now, we are everything we need to be. We have enough. We are enough right now. Like, we don't need anything different than we are today. We survived today just fine, got through everything. We're all good. We're unscathed. We've survived for another day. So we are complete the way we are right now. But does that mean we can't grow and learn? No, that's what part of life is, right? Or a big chunk of it is growing and learning, right? And so that's great. We have, even though you're wanting to look at something and add more hope kindling onto your hope fire, which is a beautiful thing. That's not because there's anything wrong with you today. That's because you hope for a better version of yourself tomorrow. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And everything I've said, if you go back through, everything I've said comes from within yourself.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Like it really comes down to making choices and decisions that will empower you to follow a pathway that you've already chosen. Because when you have that first little bit of hope, all you need to do is focus it, start to build your resources, make some choices.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. Yes, carry on, Scott. Sorry.
Amen. That's no, I think that's exactly right. And then so, and I used, just a simple example. I know when people are going through government programs to get a job, you have to have a haircut, and you have to, get a suit, even if it's borrowed from an uncle or Sally Ann or wherever. Sally Ann, that dated me, didn't it?
I love it. Yeah.
Thrift store. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry. Whoops.
Yeah, I understood. You and me are on the same page, buddy. But others might say, "What the hell is he talking about?" Yes.
Yeah, but it could be anything. Maybe you need a pair of snorkels and dive fins for whatever your hope wants to take you to, right?
Right.
And it's not about manufacturing those things. It's not about those things falling from the heavens. It's about you multiplying that hope to the point that you can obtain those things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that power comes from within you. It's not the object. The ability to get that object fairly and honestly is just about making decisions, setting priorities, and remaining focused on that thing that you hope from the beginning.
And having some patience, let it unfold, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And it might not be the exact path you thought it would be.
Yeah.
What's the story about the Buddhist story about the guy with the horse, Scott?
We talked about that last show.
You can't tell that story. There's no limit on how often that story makes sense. Yeah,
that's true, and it really is. Let's see, right?
Let's see what happens. Today might be a little odd. Geez, he took a kind of a bad bounce. Just wait, just see. It might have been a good bad bounce. I've had several times in my life when I had a little hip check from life, and it kind of, I'm on a better path here. Thank you. I didn't see. So it can happen.
It can. Yes. But the ultimate point here is that hope is a tangible starting point, and it's not an abstract thing. When I was a kid, I played an evil game. I don't think it's evil. I'm making a joke from our time. Dungeons and Dragons, right? Do you remember that one? Oh, it was going to turn us all into zombies and devil worshippers and all sorts of things, right? And I remember one time thinking, wow, wouldn't it be amazing to have magic, to just want something and wave your arms in the air and say some words and that thing would happen, or to find that genie and rub the lamp and the genie would appear and do that. And as I got older, I remember thinking about this, and I thought, okay, I called my own bluff, and I said, okay, Sweetman, if you were to rub that lamp, what would you wish for?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, better health. Okay. More money. Okay. More friends. Okay. I can't remember what the third one is. I'm just throwing friends in there. But I know the first two were health and money. And then I got thinking, do I really need a genie for those things?
That's a very astute question, sir. Yes.
And I started saying, really, I'm talking about, I hope I could have better health.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what that wish came down to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I know from the way hope works that if I focus that hope and I start building a plan and I follow the plan and I start putting energy into the plan.
Okay, Scott, hang on a second. I got to add one thing to I love where you're going. This makes real good sense. But I wanted to share with you something that my friend Jeff, who's a yoga teacher in Canmore, taught me.
Yeah.
And that was, a lot of times we talk about a serious effort to do something, correct? You hear that. And serious, like it seems like you got to endure pain and it's going to be difficult. And he used the word that I loved of a sincere effort. Yeah. A sincere effort to, capitalize on this hope, a sincere effort to improve my energy, a sincere effort to, be more patient, whatever it is that you believe would help you be 1% better tomorrow or 1% better for somebody you love that you want to be more for them or be more help to them. Those are the things.
And
so
I agree with him. And
yeah.
that's why I use the genie wishes, because boy, if you've only got 3 wishes, you're going to be really sincere about them.
Yeah.
They're not going to be random. Oh, geez, I think I would like my hair to be orange today.
Right.
Yes. They're going to be something that you're very, very sincere about.
Yes.
And I agree with your yoga master friend that the idea of no pain, no gain, may be true as long as pain involves mental pain in terms of letting go of things that are stopping you or negative ideas that are blocking your path. So yeah, I think it does have to be a sincere effort, and I think that it has to be a force multiplier. It really has to be, is this moving this closer to us? But nice. Once we get that fire started, we've pretty much got a good benchmark to hold things against and say, does this make my fire burn brighter, or does it make it smokier and risk putting it out altogether? And so, and really, of course, you see where I'm headed, that I don't need a genie to get healthier. I just need to commit to it. I need to do things every day, even a little bit every day, to get a plan, to stick to that plan, to make a commitment, to stick to that commitment. And that hope,
make the best choices you can in your circumstance. It might not be the choice you prefer, but if that's the best choice you got, then that's the one you take, brother, right?
Well, and going back to, and this is where some people fall down, is they're acculturated to look outside themselves for the solution. And, I'm listening to all the governments because of elections, and, we have a really short time for an election and all these things going on. They're promising so many things that really come down to things that have to be changed inside ourselves. That just giving us is like teach a man to fish kind of thing, right? Like, and hope is about, there's really nothing that you can hope for in the realm of reality, and many things outside the realm of reality. If you start talking to people like Elon Musk and people like that hope won't bring you if you start working towards it. If you, like you said, take what's inside yourself, even if it's a small step, a little bit extra power multiplied over a long enough distance, and perseverance becomes a huge power. So yeah. I think that the things that we would want to wish for, it's like money. We can all have more money. And often most of us have made a lot of money that we've wasted on things that we really didn't want or care about.
Right.
And, a lot of that is just reaffirming what's most important to us,
and I think just related to the topic of money, the amount that that contributes to your happiness is kind of, I think the stats are, it kind of caps up about $75,000, something like that. Beyond that, like, so, in increments of 5,000 or whatever it is, your life gets appreciably better. You can afford better options with the higher the amount gets. And then at that level and beyond, there's like no appreciation or very, very small a difference in your happiness in life, right? So
just more of.
Yeah, just more of. So, but I think for a person who's in that position, they can make a choice. They can say, I'm going to get more things that I can be involved in, more houses or more cars or whatever, more ships or whatever it is. Or I think, or maybe it's both if you're wealthy enough. Or you can say, here's how I can use these funds to contribute to my community to make my community a better place, to make it safer for my neighbors. And then if it's safer for my neighbors, it's safe for me. If I increase my safety and I increase your safety, everybody's safety goes up, right? And so I think there's a point, and I'm not saying it's $75,000, but there's a point that where you have to kind of evaluate and say, I have enough. Like I have enough income coming in to meet these expenses today and for the foreseeable future. That's enough, right? That doesn't mean you have to be Bill Gates. That means, or you don't have to have Bill Gates' bank account. That means I have enough that I can reasonably foresee that my income in the future will be more than my expenses in the future. That's enough.
I think it goes beyond just money. I know that when we found out we were in Japan, when we found out we were pregnant with the twins, and you know the wonderment and the shock sort of went hand in hand. Of course, I'll never forget the moment of absolute glee, followed by the moment of absolute unadulterated terror when I saw there were 3 hands sticking up on the ultrasound. And one day we were walking through a mall, and there was a lady there dressed in ethnic clothing and really, really dark skin. And she stopped us and put her hand on Fleur's tummy, which usually Fleur reacted to negatively, but in this case she didn't. And the woman said in a sort of thick accent, she said, "Don't worry." She said, "In our country, we believe that the universe or God or whatever you call it will never give you more than you can handle. And he will provide, it will provide whatever you need beyond what you can handle."
Mm-hmm.
And it's been true. You know, there's times where
that's your experience.
It is.
And you've had some very tumultuous times in your life.
Yeah. And there's times we were broke, and there's times that we weren't, and there was times that, you know, health was an issue, and there's times that everything was going good. And the truth was that we could handle it, or out of nowhere, some opportunity would come up that would allow us. Now, yes, we had to work, and it wasn't, you know, an envelope full of money or whatever. Often it was just the opportunity, if we took it, to maybe work harder or work better or smarter or take on some extra whatever.
Serendipity at work, my friend. Serendipity at work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know you love Serendipity. She's a good friend of yours. You've got her on speed dial. And I think that people need to trust in things like serendipity and go back to what you were saying, is that you really are enough. And there's
right now, right here, today, right this moment. Yes, you can have a perfect moment right now. If you're not in pain, if you're not hungry, if you're here and you can just feel your senses and just breathe and focus on that breath, that's a perfect moment. That's like 70 billion neurons working, 700 trillion cells all working together and make your body do the amazing thing and keep that heart pumping and those lungs running every second of every day. Amazing.
I want to share a little mental image I have of you. You know, people talk about their mind mansion and things, and I have a mind cave. And
mind cave.
Yeah, you know, if you've ever been in a cave, or if you've ever been in a big, big space, and you've just got a candle and the lights are off everywhere else, you know, you can only see a very short area around you.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think our minds are like that, and our lives are like that, and our hearts are like that in a lot of different ways. So, you know, you may be dying of thirst, and there may be a fountain 30 feet away, but it's outside the range of the little light you're carrying. You know, and so you don't see it. You don't believe it's there. If somebody said, well, just take a drink from the fountain, you would say there is no fountain.
Hey, what happens with that light if you apply more hope to it, Scott Sweetman?
Force multiplier, buddy.
All of a sudden, it illuminates. You could see the fountain. You could get the water. You could, your
Exactly.
thirst can be slaked. It's beautiful.
So I think that that's in all of our minds. And I think that the answer to so many things, to so many problems, and no, it may not be right there and we discover it and woohoo, it's all completed. But, you know, it may be the map. It may be, you know, the inside of a fortune cookie that tells us, you know, to have more hope, because there is, you know, somewhere in this big dark cavern, a way to get water to satisfy our needs. So I do think that everything we need is in us, but it's not always immediately visible. I think sometimes you have to brighten up that candle, and there's lots of ways to do that. Hope, religion, faith, yoga.
I just was watching this show with Temple Grandin and Dr. Deb something. It's about autism. It's a book that they co-authored, and they provided like 8 videos, just little 8 minutes, 5 minutes, you know, little videos about each of their key points, kind of a thing. And she's like amazing, Dr. Grandin, right? Like, I mean, she's on the spectrum, but she's very, so she sees the world in a unique way, and that's why we need diversity. We need differences, right? So she talks about Einstein as an example. He would have been on the spectrum for sure. I mean, there was no such diagnosis at that time. He was odd, as was Nikola Tesla, as is Elon Musk. But there are these people that have these amazing original thoughts, and also because they're different, they live their true authentic self. They're on that path. They just say, yeah, I'm different and I'm going this way. And if you don't like it, well, don't watch or don't participate. Like, this is the way I'm going. I love their just strive to be authentic and focus on, here's strengths that I have. In her case, she talks about strengths and interests and not to confuse the two. So strengths, you know, something she has, and she talks about her visual, the way that she can visually figure things out. Like, you know, she designed all these humane type cattle traps, right? Or cattle corrals for them to go to abattoirs and such. And she did it by like walking on the ground and seeing it like a cow would see it and say, oh yeah, here's what we're going to do. And we're going to make a circle here. And anyways, she talks about strengths versus interests. And interests are great, but strengths are the ones you want to build up. You can, and then by using them, by applying them to different interests, which I thought was a very cool way of looking at it. So
I think too that we're a little bit, and I say this very cautiously because I'm one of those people too, is that often we forget to look in our own library while checking out dozens of books from the public library. And, you know, listening to a class on something, taking a lecture, all of those things are really good. But you also should take a look inside yourself and see what your library has on that. See, you know, go back through your own experiences and things that other people have told you. And often we forget that just outside of that candlelight, to use my allegory, just outside of our candlelight is a huge library of memories and learned things and you know,
and some of those experiences might have been painful experiences to learn them, but those lessons, like, what can you learn and how can you move on from that, right? That's a great observation, Scott.
I think that people like Elon Musk and Tesla, another one of my favorite weirdos,
wait a minute, can I interject one thing? On the show that we were doing last night with Noah from Youth One, we had the thing about weird, right? You know, the weird, and said, you know, isn't there a better way? Weird has a negative connotation. So we've concluded it's outlier. If something is currently weird, we're going to refer to it as outlier. That makes more sense. We got a bell curve. We have people that are outliers on either side, and that's okay. They're just not in the bell curve, and that's all right.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I like weird. Weird is one of my favorite things.
Okay.
I don't mind being called a dork either. Dork is a good word. I think that I aspire to be both weird and a dork, but outlier works for me too. So I think if you take outliers like Tesla, like Elon Musk, is that they're always not only referencing their own library, but they're adding to it.
Mm.
And sometimes that's what we forget to do. We forget to go out and have the experiences, get out there and take the risks, get out there and do the experiments to add to our own library of knowledge. And we rely too heavily on other people's assessment. You know, I'm not going to do that because I've heard that it doesn't work.
You know what? On the just related to the same kind of a theme, I think that we should use, and especially if this happened for you in COVID times, then instead of you going to watch somebody do whatever they were doing, play a sport, play a guitar, sing a song, that you did those things. Now's still the opportunity. They're like, those kind of things aren't going to be like they were before. Do them instead of watch them. Don't be in the audience. Be the participant. Be the one that's making it happen. Do you think that makes sense?
And I think that was sort of the hope of social media like TikTok or Instagram, that people would become the creators. Of course, it's gotten corrupted by money and sex and all sorts of other things, and it's become the realm of heavily produced things. I know, Al, that your music show is part of that industry, and that
my reputation for sex and nudity is overwhelming the internet. Yes, I know. Whatever.
I think it's just because you've lost so much weight and you look so good that your sex appeal rating has gone up, and it just maxes.
Too sexy for YouTube. I know, man. That's a burden, but whatever.
Like that old song, "You're not too sexy for your shirt. You're too sexy for your show."
There you go.
Pull that one out. So yeah. But
hey, I think we got to wrap this up. Jesse's giving me the hook. He says he's got another show going. So thank you, Scott Sweetman. It was a pleasure chatting with you tonight.
Always a pleasure.
I didn't tell you the other things that happened in my day, but one thing I did want to mention, and I sent you that thing about, was the Lethbridge Original Voice Experience, which is going to be Tuesdays at 7 p.m. And my first guests are going to be Najib and Araba. And they're from Africa, and they're going to sing. Well, Araba is going to sing. Najib is going to cheer Araba on, and we're going to encourage, and Najib will sing. He doesn't know it yet, but he's going to sing too. All right.
Excellent. Be looking forward to that one, my friend. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Yes, you too. Talk to you.
Stay hopeful, everyone.